everybody, and welcome to another episode of Trust Your Board Podcast. We are back. My name is Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, Will?
Steve, we're back. Can you believe it?
I know. It doesn't feel like that long, at least not to me.
But I don't know. It's something about just being back, doing a draft. I know we were talking about recording this week. I thought we were doing a rookie draft, and but we are doing, in fact, a regular, way too early normal draft here. So just getting me back into the draft mindset, just a few months ahead of schedule here.
Yeah. Do a fun one. They're always interesting because you don't know what the sleeper ADPs are going to do. Sometimes they're kind of chaotic. So just a fun little thing. I believe we do episodes every 2 weeks until June when we switch to a weekly. Next up, we'll have the NFL predictions.
Yeah,
which is always
a fun one.
Yeah,
always a fun one, and usually tends to just be all over the place. I think, it's just really hard to nail some of those picks, but always good time.
Yeah. I feel our first year, I won. Our second year, we tied. Our third year, you won. So things are not trending in the right direction for me.
No. We'll have to see if we're going to put any stipulations on it this go around. I know we did something with picks before.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can figure something out. I'll have to go back. I feel like we're also getting worse. I feel like we were better on our first year than we were in the other years. But I don't know. We'll see. We will see. But yeah, I mean, we got a mock draft, 12-team PPR, kind of like our standard format here. As I'm sitting here, I am seeing a timer that I'm going to go ahead and get rid of because that is not going to fly. We'll stick with just a 10-minute timer up there. So yeah, Will, you are drafting out of the 4. I am drafting out of the 9. Again, out of 12 teams, are you ready just to jump right in?
Yeah, jump right in. I'm eager to see how it's going to go here. It looks like the ADP has 3 running backs to start and then a few receivers and Kelsey in there. So it seems like we'll see. I'm eager to see if there's going to be a shift in kind of methodology of people and sleeper here. We're not going to be as running back heavy because of the craziness we're seeing with running backs year over year.
Yeah, like just eyeballing it, it doesn't look bad. I know in years past, like we've eyeballed it and it's looked okay, but then you realize, oh yeah, Antonio Gibson, who was being drafted in the second round, is actually like whatever being drafted in the 10th. So I'm sure we'll find things like that. But we'll see. Let's go ahead and get it started. So you'll have the first decision, probably somewhat easier because we were definitely dealing with elite players at that point. Oh man, and there we go. Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp go off the board, leaving you with pretty much your running back of your choosing there.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And McCaffrey, of that top 3, McCaffrey, Taylor, and Eckler on the current ADPs is probably the most solidified one. We've got QB, questions with Jonathan Taylor, and then Austin Eckler, questions about will he be traded, and a lot of that's still unresolved. Jamar Chase is also here for one to go receiver. At this stage, if we're in a real draft, we probably would know a little bit more about where these players are going to land. But it seems like Jonathan Taylor is going to have Gardner Minshew as a starter, barring, I'd say CJ Stroud, rookie. The rest of them, I think, maybe Bryce Young. The other ones probably would be sitting behind Minshew. So, obviously doesn't inspire a ton of awe for this current year, or year 1 for rookie for Jonathan Taylor. And then you have Austin Eckler, in a great situation currently, but we don't know where it's going to be going forward. I'm kind of inclined to take Jamar Chase and just get the player that I know here, just because we don't know what's going on with those guys. If a better quarterback goes to Indy, Jonathan Taylor, obviously the play. Eckler stays. He's, probably the play as well. But I kind of want to see what it looks like here to go receiver early. Obviously, it's very early in the draft to go receiver as well. But I think they could see a methodology change. So I'm going to see what happens if we go receiver. So I'm just going to lock in, I think, the safest player here in Jamar Chase. After Jamar, the 2 aforementioned running backs we talked about, Austin Eckler and Jonathan Taylor, all the way down to 6. Derrick Henry pops up to 7, and then Devontae Adams to 8.
Yeah, I'm happy. I was kind of worried about what I was going to do, because in a way, back here you could be pushed into like a 0 RB. Oh, Saquon's here. That's not bad. Who are the running backs here? Saquon, Dalvin Cook, Najee, Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, ETN. Um, that that's scary to me. like reading off those names, like Cook, he's fine. He might be really good. It might be closer to the end. Najee, not great last year. Um, Josh Jacobs, obviously very good last year, but new quarterback, what's going to happen there. Joe Mixon, we don't know what team he's going to be on. ETN, we were expecting the breakout last year, didn't really happen. Swift is after him. He's in a timeshare now. Brees Hall coming off of the ACL.
Yeah,
Aaron Jones is there.
Other guys further down too, like Aaron Jones. Yeah, Tony Pollard. So some ADPs really low on those. Roger Stevenson, Kamara still got some question marks whether he's going to be suspended or not. So David Montgomery way down there. Miles Sanders. So there's definitely running backs. I think it definitely seems to be evened out a little bit. Isaiah Pacheco's way down there. So I don't mind actually, not getting a running back early, because I think if you don't get one of those top 2 or 3, 4 we've seen go, the rest of them are still question marks on everybody.
Yeah, it's usually you have your elite 2 or 3, and then you get into like a decent middle tier that lasts 2 rounds, a round and a half, and then it drops off. Well, this one, it drops off hard after those first 3 or 4, and then it's flatlined from there for a very long time, to your point. Wow. Yeah. I mean, all that to say, like, I'm happy Travis Kelce's here. Locks in my tight end nice and early. It's something I don't have to think about. Now, on your first super stupid early mock draft, it would be nice to see what kind of late round tight ends are there. But I am not going to play that game. We're just going to lock in Mr. Kelce, see what gets back to me here. Tyreek Hill, Saquon, and Stephon Diggs. That is your first round. Dalvin Cook, CeeDee Lamb, and AJ Brown go off before me. So we're back up. Top of the ADP list actually is Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Not going to go that route. But I probably will take my running back now. We got Najee, Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon on the running back front, or the wide receiver front. Sorry, we got Debo, T. Higgins, Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf. So I feel like I could grab a Chubb or a Josh Jacobs and then grab a wide receiver here, swinging around on my in the 3rd round. Brees Hall also interesting here, like a little bit further down. He's not as high up on the high rankings. He's like 7th down right now or something. But that would be interesting. But for now, I think I'm going to go with Nick Chubb. Top 3 being, Najee, Chubb, and Jacobs. Najee, not great year last year. You're really hoping that Pickett steps up. Maybe they get some help in the draft from that offensive line. Josh Jacobs, again, new quarterback situation, kind of iffy, where Cleveland I'm expecting to be better. Like, I expected Watson to be bad last year because he hadn't played in so long. So I expect a step forward. I'd like to think they got a better, wide receiver 2 now in Elijah Moore that can maybe step up, and hopefully that opens things up for Chubb a little bit more. So I'm going to grab Mr. Chubb as my first running back. Najee goes right after me. There goes the 2 quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, 206, 207, Joe Mixon. You are on the clock.
And my team is sprinting to the podium here. Thrilled to see Josh Jacobs still there. I think he's going to be in line for another really good season. There's like no competition. Maybe they draft a running back, but no competition. He's still on pretty much a contract year with the option being exercised there for him. And, you have Jimmy Garoppolo, likely the starter. I think they probably draft a quarterback as well. So you're going to rely really heavily on him. And I think it's just a no-brainer here, getting him. I'd rather have him and Jamar rather than like in, Eckler or Jonathan Taylor and, a Deebo Samuel, let's say. So really happy with this. There's still some other decent receivers here, as we have Debo, T. Higgins, Waddle, and Amon-Ra. Brees Hall, as you mentioned, is another solid running back option. Aaron Jones. So there's some good backs that I wouldn't mind getting on the swing back if, a Waddle or Amon-Ra aren't there. Mark Andrews there as well, but still it's it's really tough now because of all the question marks that are still in place. Like when we're drafting, come August, September, you're going to know where a lot of these guys are. A lot of these guys' values are going to be way up or way down. So not going to be as variable, but here I find myself wanting to take guys that are a little bit more safe. So we're going to go ahead and lock in Josh Jacobs. After him, T. Higgins, Debo Samuel, DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, Jalen Hurts, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So puts a tougher situation here because Waddle's still on the board. I think he's going to be in for a big year as well. Coming off of a year where what do we have? He was wide receiver 13 in PPR. 8 in PPR, 13 his first year. So despite having Tyreek there to take some targets away, also took some coverage away, 75 catches, 1,300 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Really just proved that he is what we saw his rookie year. So I'd love to really pair him with with Chase, and while still having a Josh Jacobs on the team.
Real quick, Will.
Yeah.
Before you make a pick, I do want to call out because I don't know where they are in the ADP. The rookies are in here.
Okay.
Like here's Bijan. His ADP is 146.
Yeah, so he'll be going around here probably at some point, and he would be
exactly
in consideration for sure here. He seems like he is one of the more surefire guys, but ADP is going to be dependent on if you're taking him in the third round or the fifth round or the first round because he gets crazy good capital, good landing spot. I think this is probably what a safe spot to take him, not knowing where he goes. But I think I'm going to, once again, play it safe with still a ton of upside here and pair Waddle here with Jamar Chase and Josh Jacobs and just kind of have two really solid top 10 receivers. So lock it in Jalen Waddle. After him, Keenan Allen, Breece Hall off the board for you, Steve, Mark Andrews, and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I was really hoping that Breece got to me. That would have been nice. Also would have been nice if Andrews, I mean, he's a roll the dice because of the Lamar situation, but if he would have got there and I didn't pick Kelsey, that would have been probably a good value, I would think. Mm-hmm. We've seen Andrews put up good numbers with Isaiah Likely, so I would still probably be okay grabbing him there, but I grabbed Kelsey. Don't need to worry about that. Running backs, we got Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams, Tony Pollard, Alvin Kamara. Wide receivers, DK Metcalf, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin, Michael Pittman, DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Devonta Smith. So lots of options on both fronts. I'm probably not doing anything with Aaron Jones. I mean, maybe they lean on him a lot with assuming Rodgers goes eventually. Kenneth Walker and Tony Pollard are probably the most interesting to me. And then on the wide receiver front, I'm interested in a lot of them. Not so much Hopkins or Pittman. But I think what I'd rather do here, I think I'd rather grab a Kenneth Walker, solidify that running back position before it drops off further. And then I can grab another wide receiver. If they all go, I'm okay with, Devonta Smith being my number one. Garrett Wilson's down here. If the Aaron Rodgers trade happens, he's going to be flying up this ADP, I'd imagine. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in Mr. Walker before we hit that running back cliff, and we'll see what gets back to me. Herbert goes, Aaron Jones, DK Metcalf, that ends the third. Mike Evans, Tony Pollard, George Kittle. So I am back on the clock. Running backs, we're at Javonte Williams, Alvin Kamara, Ramondre Stevenson, James Conner, Zeke, Akers. Probably the most interesting of that group, maybe Kamara. Dobbins is there, Montgomery, Fournette, Sanders, Pierce. So some solid options there, but you can tell it's starting to drop off a little bit. Wide receivers, most of the same ones I rattled off before. McLaurin, Pittman, Hopkins, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Devonta Smith, DJ Moore. This is a tougher spot where I really wish I could get a Devonta Smith and a Garrett Wilson. But there's no way it happens that way. Of this grouping, I do think I like Devonta Smith more. Hopkins, we don't know what his future is. Pittman could be good this year. Minshew, for his failings, is a gunslinger. He could produce, fantasy value.
Hoping we see
Cool.
it for our boy Alec Pierce on our dynasty team.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like, that could work out, but why roll the dice when I can just grab Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, proven offense, proven quarterback. Don't need to roll the dice. Not like Pittman's kind of, unless Pierce, does emerge and takes a step forward. Pittman's one of few options on that team, where Devonta Smith is obviously surrounded by a lot more talent. So you don't have that, but still a lot of upside there. So that's what I'm going to do. And look and see what kind of wide receivers get back to me here. So we got Hawkinson goes, Javonte Williams, Alvin Kamara, Terry McLaurin goes off right before your pick.
All right. So if we're looking just at, who's available here, quarterback, Lamar, Jackson, Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Murray. Lamar, interesting at that time if you want to go quarterback, but not going to be the way I go at this point. Kyle Pitts is probably the main receiver here. Further down, Goddard, Waller, Schultz, Freiermuth. But I don't mind waiting at that position here. I think there's still some middle round guys that'll be solid. At the running back position, you still got Ramondre Stevenson, James Conner, Ezekiel Elliott on the EDP. Cam Akers is interesting. I think he could get the bulk of the work as what for that team. We'll see how good they are, but I do think he's going to get a lot of work there. J.K. Dobbins in Baltimore, David Montgomery on a new team in Detroit, Miles Sanders, new team in Carolina. So a lot of options there. Receiver, Michael Pittman, as you talked about, DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Garrett Wilson. So still some pretty solid options there as well. Out of those, as you mentioned, Michael Pittman is interesting. But I think if I'm going to go with a receiver, with a potentially unstable quarterback, but, we'll see what jumps in, it's going to be Garrett Wilson. He's a little further down on the ADP, but, he's just an absolute stud. We've seen it last year. He proved it. And I've already got two really solid receivers. So getting him as my third receiver just gives me huge upside there. And there's still quite a few running backs that I don't mind grabbing one here on the return. So we're going to lock in Garrett Wilson first. James Conner goes, Michael Pittman, Lamar Jackson, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, and Ezekiel Elliott. None of the ones I was really looking at there for running back. Godwin and DJ Moore are still pretty interesting, but I want to make sure I get a running back here. So it comes down to Stevenson is interesting in New England. James Robinson's there. I wouldn't put it past them to draft a running back. And at this stage, I don't know that I want to rely on a New England back for my top guy. So I look at Cam Akers as an option. And then, really the two that I'm looking at is David Montgomery and Miles Sanders. I think both are going to be really solid RB2s. If you can get them as your third, even better. But I think for me, Detroit is just a team that's on the rise. And while it's probably going to be Montgomery and Swift, they've just year in and year out, since Swift's been there, proven that they just don't want to give him the full workload or just don't trust what he is. I think David Montgomery got paid there, and he's going to get a lot of work. It's probably going to be a split backfield, but they have a really good offensive line. And it's a division that's not great either. Minnesota's good, but their defense, how that wasn't very good last year, and we'll see what they've done to revamp it. Chicago's got a lot of money to spend, but they're still, kind of up in the air, and Green Bay seems to be moving downward. So Detroit could slot in to be one of the favorites in that division. And I think that that's just, a safer back that I think is going to get a guaranteed workload. To get him as my RB2 here, he can take some shots on running backs a little bit later, but feeling pretty solid with the rest of the team. So going to lock in David Montgomery. After him, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Ramondre Stevenson, and Mike Williams.
Okay. Back up here. I'm in an interesting position here. Okay. So, importantly, we're going to read off quarterbacks. Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Dak, Kyler, Russell Wilson, Tua. Some running backs here: Cam Akers, Dobbins, Leonard Fournette, Miles Sanders, Dameon Pierce, A.J. Dillon. Wide receivers: Jerry Jeudy, Chris Olave, Deontay Johnson, Calvin Ridley back on the board here, Hollywood Brown, Cortland Sutton. At tight end, I don't care, but Kyle Pitts is here, Goddard, Waller, Schultz, blah, blah. So I was prepared to sit here and tell you that I was taking Jerry Jeudy. Did you know, Will, in the last, I want to say, I think it's 4 weeks of the year, Jerry Jeudy was like the wide receiver 8.
No, did not realize that. I
Yeah.
think
And if
everyone
you look
just
at
cooned out of the Denver games at that point.
right, he was wide receiver 8. And then I think if you go back like 5 games, he was like a mid wide receiver 2 or something like that. So maybe him and Russ got on the same page a little bit. I believe towards the end of the year, Russ had a few good weeks after they fired the coach. So maybe that's all related and it's kind of nothing. But one thing I do want to remember this year is that drafting late round quarterbacks is getting much more difficult. Um, it used to be that you just grab the runner, you grab somebody with high upside, and they don't. They're just harder to find anymore. Like last year, like Kirk Cousins was late and he was fine, but he wasn't like a league winner. Trey Lance was going at a decent spot. Obviously, he got hurt. Justin Fields was going late, and outside of, I mean, he blew up, but he hurt you in the first however many weeks, 5 weeks. I forget at what point he caught fire, but he was bad until then. So I think if I'm looking, let's look here. So there's one quarterback that has gone after me. Yeah, there's nothing I'm looking at in the teams following me that gives me a lean either way. I got 3 teams after me. One of them has a quarterback. One of them only has one wide receiver. So I feel like no matter what, I'm not going to get Jeudy and Fields. And I think Judy's going to be more replaceable and more of a gamble anyway. So I'm going to grab my quarterback now and lock in Mr. Justin Fields. Jerry Jeudy goes immediately.
Right after.
Yeah. Team 11, that sucker takes Kyle Pitts. Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins go at the 5-6 turn. Dameon Pierce and then Cortland Sutton. He doubled up on Denver running backs or wide receivers. Probably not the smartest thing to do, but okay. I am up. And there's one name that's jumping out at me here, Will. I'm wondering if you're thinking the same. It's Chris Olave.
Yeah, top of the board there. Miles Sanders is a solid running back as well, but your team construction definitely could use a wide receiver.
Yeah. Devontae Smith and Chris Olave seems like a good pairing. Potential breakout in his second year. And, looking at the guys around him, Devontae Johnson, we know is good. It's going to depend on Pickett. Ridley, who knows what's left in the tank. Like, again, he's kind of in that Watson realm. If he hasn't played in so long, it's going to take him a while. Hollywood Brown, probably solid. Who knows? Drake London's probably going to be a good volume guy, depending on what happens with the quarterback stuff there. So Olave just clear and above to me jumps out. So I'm going to lock him in there, get some upside with my pick. Mr. Teamless, Leonard Fournette goes after that. Deontay Johnson and then Miles Sanders right before you. You are back up.
Yeah, Miles would have been a nice pairing with Montgomery to give me just 2 safer running backs there at RB2. But alas, that's not the case. But the other player that I was really hoping would get back to me here did, and it was kind of the last of the tight end tier in Dallas Goedert, still available here in the 6th round. We usually don't like to go tight end and quarterback early. You're bucking the trend a bit there, Steve. But this is the area where I usually want to go with one of them, so I know I can get a quality tight end or quarterback. The quarterback list: Trevor Lawrence, Prescott, Murray, Wilson, Tua. Still a few guys that I like, and I think I could probably get on my next pair of picks after this. One of them, especially with 2 teams behind me already having quarterback, can kind of rely on after I take my next pick at 7. As long as there's 2 guys that I like after that, I should be able to get one of them. But I think it's pretty tier breaky after this. I mean, you've got those big 5 already off the board. I'd argue Goddard's right in there with them. He's a safer option on a high-powered offense. And the Eagles' defense probably isn't going to be as good as last year after losing a lot of pieces. So they're going to have to rely more on the offense. Wouldn't be surprised if they invest in the offensive line with one of their picks here in the draft, just to solidify that and just make sure that when you pay the quarterback, you're going to have to lean more into the offense. And You see that with Kansas City. They were very offensive focused. They've started pouring a lot of draft pick resources into their defense, and they've had a lot of good young defenders that came to play, but they weren't known as a really good defense this year. And you'll see that with teams that are paying the quarterback. So all that being said, Dallas Goedert is going to be the pick here, and then I'll look to go kind of best available receiver or running back after that. The Dallas Goedert off the board. Calvin Ridley, Brandon Ayuk, Darren Waller, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquise Brown, and Trevor Lawrence all go off the board. So gives it a little bit easier for me on the quarterback on my next pick because all three of the teams behind me have one already. Wouldn't put it past one of them to maybe take a second one, given that this is ADP. But this early, I think you could probably still get away with it in the 8th or 9th round. And I'm not in love with one of the ones that are here. So we're going to be looking at the receiver or running back position. Still just got 2 running backs, 3 receivers. Running backs, we're looking at A.J. Dillon. Isaiah Pacheco is solid, but still there's some ups and downs that could be there with him. James Cook, Rashad White looks to be the guy there. Elijah Mitchell, Brian Robinson. Now, I think at this point, he will be long gone, so I'm not going to take him here, but I don't believe anything moved on with Bijan. I don't think it'd be fair to take him here because no matter where he goes, he will be drafted ahead of this in normal drafts come August. Even if it's a bad position, he's just too talented. So not going to take him here, but as we note, there have not been any rookies drafted here just yet. So I'm going to look at the receiver position just because I don't really love any of those running backs. And there's a couple receivers I do really like. We've got Drake London still on the board, Christian Kirk, Christian Watson, Michael Thomas still there, Pickens, Cooks. If I'm looking at guys I just think have upside, you have Drake London and Christian Kirk are the top 2 for me here. The quarterback is there and a little more solid with Christian Kirk. Drake London probably has more volume because it's really just him and Pitts. But I think it's limited upside unless they make a move at quarterback. So for me, it's going to be taking another good receiver and Christian Kirk, pairing him with the core that I already have, and really just, that's my strength. So I want to make sure if there's an injury there, I remain strong at that position and try to fill the running back position, later in the draft and free agency. I've already got a really good tight end, so feel really solid about my 4 receivers and tight end here after taking Kirk, and I'll be looking to go running back with one, if not both, of my next 2 picks. Gabe Davis off the board after me, Dalton Schultz, Michael Thomas, Drake London to you.
Yeah, so back on the clock, 7th pick. Just to go through my team real quick, since we've got 2 back-to-back picks. We got Kelsey in at tight end. Running backs are Chubb and Walker. Wide receivers, Devonta Smith and Chris Olave, and then quarterback we have Justin Fields. So taking a look at that, I would like, kind of like you looking at running back, right? I'm wanting to grab one more before things get even messier. There's some decent later dart throws. Khalil Herbert, his ADP's down. Damian Harris could be a starter. Tyler Algier is down there. But I feel like you also say the same thing every year. And those dart throws are just terrible. So I'm looking to grab one, maybe even 2, depending on how my next pick falls and who goes. But Pacheco and Rashad White are the 2 that I'm looking at. Rashad White I find very interesting. Like you said, he should be the guy. But the guy on what team? Who, what is happening in Tampa Bay? Weren't that great last year. They're definitely not going to be as good this year. Does the running game matter that much without Tom Brady? Who knows? I'm going to start Pacheco. I at least know he's on a good offense. I'm not worried about Clyde Edwards-Helaire at this point. If McKinnon's still there, and I don't know if they re-signed him, if he's back for 1 year, or maybe that's something that's going to happen. We know he'll probably siphon off some work. But Pacheco looked good at times last year. Hoping they don't draft somebody. But, he looked well enough, so I wouldn't invest to drop capital into a running back personally. So I'm going to go ahead and grab up Mr. Pacheco. A.J. Dillon goes right off the board after me, and then Dak and Kyler round out the 7th. Antonio Gibson, George Pickens, and Rashad White. So I started a bit of a trend. I did end my dream of getting Pacheco and Rashad White. That was going to be an option.
Close. It was close.
Yeah, it would have been a serious option. I could still pair him with Khalil Herbert, who I think is a pretty interesting option. The rest are okay. Brian Robinson, maybe. James Cook, What else? Tyler Algier, Devonta Foreman, Rashad Penny, not bad. Mostert. Looking at wide receivers, though, we got Christian Watson, Treylon Burks, Brandon Cooks, Darnell Mooney, Adam Thielen. Let's see, Bateman, Kadarius Toney, Allen Robinson, Alan Lazard, Hunter Renfrow. So a lot of options here. Christian Watson's the one that's jumping off the board, and he's one of the scarier ones, given the quarterback situation there. But I think I'm going to roll the dice on him. I'm hoping that later in the draft I can find somebody reliable. I'm scrolling down. I'm not seeing anyone. It's Robert Woods popped up. A Robert Woods-like player when Robert Woods was reliable, I guess, to offset it if Watson busts. But I think we'll go with Watson. Grab myself some more wide receiver upside here. Again, Khalil Herbert is really interesting there. I don't think he's going to get back to me. But I'm taking the wide receiver upside here. We'll lock in Mr. Watson. James Cook goes. Treylon Burks, Elijah Mitchell, and Pat Fryermuth with the 808. You're up.
All right. So back to me here. I know I'm going to be going quarterback with my next pick, but given that all three guys behind me have one already, I don't feel the need to. My preference would be Tua here. It's Tua and Russell Wilson. Both, I think, are going to be on good offenses this year. But with Tua, we at least saw it last year. The risk is really more his health, and he seems to be healthy so far in the offseason. Anything can happen, with injuries and obviously with him with concussions. But at this stage of the game, everything seems to be going well. Pairing him with Jalen Waddle is going to be, would be a nice stack there. But would not mind Russell Wilson if Tua somehow goes to a team with the second quarterback. So that being said, we're looking once again at the receiver and running back position. Wide receiver, Brandon Cooks is interesting. Wide receiver 2 there, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman. But given that I've already got 4 and just the 2 running backs seems like more of the priority position. Brian Robinson, top on the board here. Kareem Hunt, who, interestingly enough, is still not on a team, Steve. Any thoughts there?
I don't think so.
What is causing him to still be a free agent?
I don't know. He didn't really do anything last year. I guess that's it. As somebody who drafted him, I'm well aware. I guess he didn't really do anything, and it's just the end of the line. I mean, he'll get snagged up by somebody, I'd imagine.
And he's still only 27. Like, he doesn't have a ton of carries. I don't think he played that poorly even last year. I mean, I just didn't seem to get a ton of opportunity, but I guess 3 yards per carry, 3.8, so less than his career average, which is usually about 4, but only 123 carries, 44 targets. But yeah, you'd think an offense would be able to utilize him, but surprisingly not on the team.
Yeah, somebody will, the draft won't go the way they want it to go, and then they'll go and sign him for some cheap 1-year deal, and we'll see. He might be a good value, though. Because of that, his ADP might be low, unless he goes like Kansas City or something.
Yeah. For me, it's really just 2 options here. Jamal Williams in New Orleans. I think he is going to be used even when Kamara is on the field. But if there is a suspension, Jamal Williams is going to be the bulk of that offense that has gotten probably a lot better now with Derek Carr as the quarterback. For me, I'm going to shoot for a little bit more upside in a guy that I think could be the clear 1A and should be, in Khalil Herbert, as you mentioned there. Offense that's on the rise, great rushing quarterback there on your team with Justin Fields. So I think it's just a safer bet there to nab Khalil Herbert here and then, be able to take some more safer options or upside shots at running back later here in the draft. So we're locking in Khalil Herbert as my 3rd running back. Evan Ingram goes off the board, Kareem Hunt, Jamal Williams, Rashad Bateman, Dawson Knox, and Brandon Cooks. So back to me. If Jamal was still there, it would be tempting to roll the dice on quarterback again, but he goes off the board. Brian Robinson, Devin Singletary, not enticing enough for me to risk it. So just going to lock in Tua here as my quarterback. And Russell Wilson goes right after him. So clearly that would have been a risk. And I'm sure one other team would have taken a second quarterback there before it got back to me. So after Russell Wilson, Adam Thielen, Darnell Mooney, and Brian Robinson.
Yeah, so back on the clock, a name that jumps out immediately, Tyler Algier is available here. I skipped a few names to get to him because I don't care about those other players. Devontae Foreman, Rashad Penny, Raheem Mostert. They're showing Chase Edmonds on Tampa Bay. Did he sign the Tampa Bay?
He did. Chase Edmonds is in Tampa now, so I think he's really like replacing Gio Bernard, I guess.
Okay. So we got some options there at running back. Again, we say that every year though. So, I'll draft Algier and then him and Patterson will split 50-50 and be irrelevant. I mean, who knows? Wide receiver, we got Kadarius Toney, Allen Robinson, Alan Lazard, Renfro, Jameson Williams, if you want a nice upside shot there. Dotson, Jacoby Myers, Peoples-Jones, Tyler Boyd, Beckham, if you want to take that shot, amongst others. So I'm looking at the three teams after me. They've all gone pretty running back heavy recently. Except for one. I think I can roll the dice on running back because I'd be happy with Algier, Foreman, or Penny. I'm good with all of them. But at wide receiver, I think the one I want is Alan Lazard. Again, I'm assuming Rodgers is going to end up with the Jets. You got the built-in connection there, but I got Olave and Watson already. So I'm taking some upside shots. If they don't pan out, especially Watson, Alan Lazard's that kind of safety net that I can plug in there that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in there so I get that safety net. We'll see what running back gets back to me. Kadarius Toney, Singletary, Kirk Cousins. We have a tight end run. Ertz and Njoku and Cole Kmet down here at the 10th round. That's interesting. But that's awesome. So that leads me back to my running backs. They're all here. I'm curious, Will, the Eagles fan, would you rather have Tyler Algier or Penny?
I think the upside of Penny is too much to pass up. I mean, obviously there's a lot of injury risk there, but the offense is so much better. If he's healthy, he could easily be the one. And Kenny Gainwell spelling him a bit. So I think Penny would definitely be the pick there for me of the two. But it's a lot more risk. I mean, if you're looking for a safer option, I think Algier makes way more sense. Like for me, if Penny was still there, I need more upside at running backs. I would take that. But if you're looking for more safety, Algier, probably has less injury risk and should probably split that work, if not get a little bit more.
Yeah, my lean is Penny as well.
Coming from a person who said he wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. We were
I know.
Earlier this year, huh?
I know. I've kind of come. I mean, part of the reason I'm coming around is because we're in the 10th round.
Yeah.
Injury risk is definitely a risk, but who on this list doesn't have some sort of risk involved with them? Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah. Like Damian Harris might not have an injury risk, but he has a risk of being completely irrelevant and no one cares about him. You can make up a story for everyone on this list pretty much. I'm also, I haven't looked up any stats to back this up. This is my feeling. Maybe part of Penny's problems was a coaching staff problem in Seattle. Like, was it a conditioning issue? Because it wasn't just Penny getting hurt. Chris Carson got hurt plenty. Like, I remember them diving down into the Travis Holmers and DJ Dallases and that dude who went to Baltimore and was good for a year that I don't remember, but I should because I drafted him. I just don't. I feel like his name's... Yeah, I'd have to go back and see if I can find him. But I feel like there's plenty of injuries in Seattle all the time. It wasn't just Penny. So maybe it was like a conditioning issue in Seattle. Maybe I'm just making all that up. I don't know. But I'm going to go with the upside of Penny. Yourself into it. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go with the upside of Penny. And while you're making your pick, I'm going to go find out who I'm thinking about.
All
that
right.
Baltimore running back here.
So Hunter Renfro, Damian Harris, who I thought was a good option as well, Allen Robinson, and Tyler Boyd off the board. So going into round 10 here, at this point, I'm really just going to be loading up on running backs and receivers. For anyone new, Stephen Knight's kind of mentality. Usually we wait on the onesie positions like tight end and quarterback, but even if you do go early, we usually don't double up on those positions because they are much easier to replace in free agency than running backs and receivers are, and you have to start so many of them. So once I lock in both of those two positions, I'm not even thinking about those positions again. So we're looking more here at the receiver and the running back position. Running back, still have Patterson and Algier. Algier would be the pick of the two for me there. I wish I could take Bijan Robinson here, but I'm just not going to do it because most of the rookies would probably be off the board here. And I'm sure we'll see a lot of the teams taking them that are the CPU teams here, but I'm going to stay away from that. Beyond him, Alexander Madison, Raheem Mostert, Kenny Gainwell, especially P. Ryan. So some solid options. But then receivers, you have Jameson Williams, rookie from last year, John Dotson as well, both solid. Elijah Moore and Sky Moore, both solid options too. For me, I think as much as I'd love to take the shot on Jameson Williams, take the upside shot there, Tyler Algier is a good running back at a position of need for me here, only having 3 running backs and 4 receivers already. So I'm going to have to lock him in. And I think there's a big drop off after that. A couple other decent guys, but lock it in Tyler Algier. After him, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, down to Foreman, Odell Beckham, Deshaun Watson, Cordero Patterson, and Aaron Rodgers. So we got some double quarterbacks going off the board here next.
Can I read off some names for you?
Yeah. You got some throwbacks for us?
I got a lot. I really fell into a rabbit hole.
Oh, boy.
So the player I was thinking of was Alex Collins.
Alex Collins. Okay. Yeah.
He was with Seattle for a while, went to Baltimore and got hurt. And I think that was the end. But then I ended up on his Wikipedia page and I found a lot of other names. Eddie Lacy. He was a Seattle Seahawk at one point. Mm-hmm. Thomas Rawls. CJ Procise. McKissick
receiver,
was there.
I think, or quarterback. I know he wasn't a running back at one point.
Yeah, I forget. Quarterback converted, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Right. Notre Dame.
And then he went to Baltimore, and at the time, Baltimore had Jeremy Langford.
Michigan State, I believe.
Yeah, he backed up Forte for a while, I believe. Kenneth Dixon. Yeah, towards meniscus. Danny Woodhead was around. Terrence West was a thing.
Terrence West, Cleveland is where I remember him.
And then Buck Allen was the last one.
Allen.
Yeah, I mean, they're just listing names. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It seems like forever ago. Huh? Yeah, we're down to like 2016, 2017 with these names.
Oh, that's good.
Anyway.
Yeah, so at this point, none of the guys I really wanted went off the board. Foreman was interesting, but already having Herbert, I don't know that I needed to double down at that team. So for running back, Kenny Gainwell, Raheem Mostert probably be the big ones for me here. But I think taking a shot at receiver makes more sense for my team. There's still a lot of running backs left, and I've got that, that fourth one locked in there with Algier. So I'm pretty even at receiver and running back. So I'm going to go here with more of an upside shot in Jameson Williams. I like Dotson as well. Got him in the Dynasty League, and I think he should be good. But Jameson Williams has a chance to just kind of step in and be a star. And obviously, next to Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be tough. But I do like Jared Goff as a good quarterback over whatever we're going to get out of Washington. I think that's a little scarier. So take the upside shot here on Jameson Williams. After him, a couple quarterbacks, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, at this point, we're just taking shots at long distance shots here. We do still have Mostert here, who is a decent starting running back, assuming they don't draft somebody. Alexander Madison's still here. Kenneth Gainwell, Samaje P. Ryan could be interesting while Javonte Williams is hurt. Michael Carter. Isaiah Spiller. Ooh, Isaiah Spiller. If Eckler were to get moved.
Yeah, especially if he gets traded. I think they probably draft someone, but
probably.
he's still probably going to be, in the mix at least.
Yeah. Boston Scott. Now we're at the end of the list. So wide receivers is where all the action's at. You got Sky Moore if you want to take an upside shot there. Elijah Moore if you want to take that shot. Gallup could be a safe-ish play, but probably doubtful with Cooks arriving there. We fall into all the rookies. KJ Osborne, an interesting one with Thielen gone. Joshua Palmer, seen some breakout talk on his front. Very important to us. John Mechie further down here. But I'm going with our boy Elijah Moore. New team in need of another wide receiver. I think is capable of becoming the one for that team. Like, I don't think Amari Cooper is good enough anymore just to have that on lockdown. So yeah, I'm going to take my upside shot with Elijah Moore. See what gets back to me here. Matson goes. Mr. Tom Brady goes. Gerald Everett, Myers, McKinnon, David Carr, Derek Carr. One day that man will retire and I can just stop making this mistake. So yeah, I mean, I'm just going to take my shot on Sky Moore, I guess. Juju's gone. MVS wasn't anything. You got to throw the ball at someone. They probably draft somebody, but for now, I'm going to take my shot on Sky Moore.
Yeah, I mean, who else do you have there? What's his name from the Giants they traded for? I think he just got taken.
Kadarius.
Yeah. But I mean, outside of that, you think they got to get somebody on the team.
Yeah, they really. I don't recall. I'm going to look it up real quick. I don't recall if they picked up anyone from free agency. Justin Ross. Oh, they got John Ross. I mean, that's no threat.
Yeah.
There's nothing else there. So
interesting.
Yeah, I will call out in the 12th round. We're really taking dart throws. Trey Lance is not that bad of a dart to throw, given the Purdy injury and his running upside.
Is he going to play this year? Sam Darnold seems like he's going to be competing for the job, everyone says.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Crazy. I also saw Mike Florio had some Kirk Cousins trade rumors with San Francisco too. I don't know how that makes sense.
I saw something about Aaron Rodgers to San Francisco too. So that's everybody's talking about those moves out there.
Yeah, and there's Trey Lance rumors too. So maybe he gets moved to like a Texans or something. Who knows? I'm just saying, 12th round, a rushing quarterback, young. You could do a lot worse. Like the 2 picks later is Robert Woods. I'd much rather take Trey Lance.
No, and so where we are here, we're still taking shots on guys. There's a couple receivers that I like further down, but at this stage, I'm going to take a couple shots at running back here. First one's going to be Raheem Mostert. He mentioned earlier, when healthy, is in the perfect scheme for him there. That Shanahan scheme that Mike McDaniels runs. So pretty easy one for me here. Really loaded up a third Dolphin, I think there. Zach Charbonnet goes first rookie off the board. Is that right? Or did we see? I guess we didn't.
Bijan had to have gone, right?
No, I don't think so. I think that was the first
he's still here.
Taken. That's crazy.
Yeah. Him and Gibbs are still up there.
Jigba and Jordan Addison. So a couple of rookies go off the board there. As we mentioned, a lot of these guys will be gone by here, so we're not taking them. For me, still looking at running back. A couple interesting guys. Kenny Gainwell. I think he's going to get work there with Penny, and the upside of Penny is great. The downside is an injury, and Kenny Gainwell is going to be getting most of the work, I'd assume, at that point. Boston Scott spelling him, probably a rookie. I'm guessing they trade down, pick up some more picks, and get like a mid-round running back as well. Samaje Perine, another interesting one for me as well in Denver. They don't really, as far as I know, there's no one else on the roster if Javonte's not ready, right? Or so viable options?
I don't think so.
So I think he could be interesting, especially early on in the year.
Yeah, I don't remember them getting anyone else. I will look it up real quick because you feel like, oh, okay, I already seen one name. Hold on, let me sort this properly here. Okay, so they got multiple. Okay, but I don't know a lot of these people. Tyler Batty.
Okay, yeah,
Beatty, whatever.
Yeah,
Beatty.
And I like him coming out, but he could not stick on a team, unfortunately.
No. So him, they got someone by the name of Maria Crockett.
Okay, Crockett sounds
Ty-
familiar.
Tyreek McAllister. But then they got Tony Jones Jr., and I remember that name, but I don't remember why I remember that name. Was he a Saint that people thought was going to break out?
Maybe. And I think there's Tony Jones Jr.
Yeah, that's him. Tony Jones Jr.
Okay, yeah.
But I just don't. That name pops. I just don't know from where.
The fantasy footballers, I think, had a bit with his name. That's probably what you remember.
He was a Saint. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he had a good preseason.
Gotcha. Well, that depth chart, obviously we're still pre-draft, so a lot could change. They could take a running back there to give some depth. But with that depth chart, I think Samaje Perine makes a lot of sense. And I think he's not great, but in a Shanahan offense, in a blanking on his name, the Saints Hall of Fame coach that is now in Denver.
Sean Payton
offense. I like what he could be, especially if we do see Javonte ready to go, but just maybe not fully healthy. So I'm gonna take a shot here on P. Ryan early in the season. If he doesn't look like what he is, it opens up a free roster spot for me. So after him, Chase Claypool, Jahmyr Gibbs, Anthony Richardson, Bijan Robinson almost gets to you, Steve, in the 13th round.
Yeah, almost. So yeah, I'm looking at these running backs. Gainwell is still here. I do have Penny. I don't know if I want that handcuff. Michael Carter's here. That could be interesting if maybe Brees doesn't start the season because of the injury or he's slow or something. Isaiah Spiller is still here. In a real draft, like if we were actually drafting today, it would probably be Spiller would be my pick as a Eckler getting moved hedge. But like you said, they're probably drafting somebody, you would think. I'm not seeing anything else in the realm of Alfred Morris is still on this list in the world of running backs. Yeah. Zach Zenner. I haven't heard his name in a while either. He's still on here.
It's a flashback.
Yeah. I feel like we do this every year. You scroll down far enough and you find, Matt Forte is still on here or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here. So we will move on. Wide receivers. Actually, let me look at tight ends. Greg Dulcich is here.
Not bad.
Trey McBride is here. Okonkwo is here. That's actually pretty interesting. Those are some interesting tight end options. At wide receiver, Zay Jones is here. I feel like that he's kind of hurt because of the Calvin Ridley, the grab. Wan'Dale Robinson is here. That could be interesting. Rondell Moore, if Hopkins gets moved. Alec Pierce, Romeo Dobbs, Mechie's here. End of the list, Darius Slayton, Tim Patrick, Shakir, Dortch. I got 2 picks. That's not bad. I can make 2 picks. Yeah. I am going to take 2 dart throws. I'm going to throw one at KJ Osborne, see if he could step into a nice target share with Adam Thielen moving on. And then I will take a shot on John Mechie emerging as the 1 in Houston.
Well, at least you don't have to worry about any other players really going. Kenny Gainwell is the only non-rookie to go since your KJ Osborne pick.
Yeah.
So a lot of rookies going there. Back to me here. Still 3 guys that were on my queue here. Chuba Hubbard, still available. A solid handcuff to Miles Sanders. I think he's going to get some work, but he'd be one of those guys that you draft for week 1 just to see if there's an injury. Because I think he would get most of the workload should someone ahead of him go down. James Robinson, also another interesting one. He probably will be the RB2 in New England unless one of the second-year backs, rookies from last year, second-year backs here, are able to pass him and show. But the guy that I like here, I'm taking a shot on, I think probably start rising up at some point, especially if one of his teammates gets traded, is Tim Patrick, a guy that we had at one point on our dynasty team. And if we're to believe that offense is going to be substantially better, you're going to imagine, Dulcich probably is the third option, but I think there's a good chance Tim Patrick is going to have some good value, and I'm still not sold that they're not going to trade probably Sutton, but maybe blanking who you just drafted.
Judy,
yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of those gets moved. So this late in the draft, wouldn't mind seeing how the offense looks in the first couple weeks. So we're going to go with Tim Patrick. Jerry Judy in the 14th round would be nice, but Tim Patrick we'll settle for. And then a few tight ends go off the board here to end. So there's a lot of rookies there in the last 2 rounds.
Will, we haven't done a mock draft since August, and we hit the timing on this recording dead on. It's we're at 56 minutes right now, so just enough time to go through the teams. It's pretty amazing. I know, for real, we're very good at this. Okay, so again, you were in the 4th, I was in the 9th. You could go ahead and run down your team first.
All right, so I'll just run down the teams itself. Quarterback, I have Tua Tagovailoa. Running backs, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, Tyler Algier, Raheem Mostert, and Samaje Perine. Wide receiver, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson, Christian Kirk, Jameson Williams, and Tim Patrick. And then we've got Dallas Goedert at tight end. Overall, I love my team. I'm sure most people are going to really love their team early on in the offseason, especially when you're drafting with a bunch of computers. But, quarterback could be a little bit more solid, but 9th round pick, thrilled. Receiving core, I'm really happy with my top 4, and I like the shots that I took later. Love Dallas Goedert at tight end. And then I think really solid getting Josh Jacobs there in the 2nd round, and then being able to just kind of put some pieces around him with David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, Tyler Algier. I think as long as I can get 1 or 2 of them to pop, I'm in good shape. So, really like this team. Imagine there's going to be some inflated ADPs for some of these guys as we get closer, and not going to be able to put this team together again down the road, but overall, like where it's at right now.
Yeah, overall, it's fun to do. So for my team, again, out of the 9th spot, Justin Fields at quarterback, at running back, Chubb, Walker, Pacheco, Rashad Penny. At wide receiver, Devonta Smith, Olave, Christian Watson, Lazard, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore, Osborne, Mechie, and then at tight end, Travis Kelce. It's an interesting team. I look at it and it kind of scares me because it's full of people that I've never drafted before. Walker, Devonta Smith, Olave, Watson, Pacheco, both Moores, Mechie. I'm not familiar with rostering any of these players, Justin Fields. So it feels weird from that standpoint. I also look at it and think I feel like I'm missing something somewhere. And then it's oh yeah, I got Travis Kelce. That's why I feel that way, because I went tight end early.
Everything feels a little lighter when you have best tight end in football.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not too bad. I'll take it. It was a interesting exercise. You could clearly see some of the people that are going to fall. Like Zeke is up here, drafted somewhere much earlier. There it was, 5'3". Zeke got drafted. We saw Fournette drafted in here somewhere. It's a lot is going to change, but a lot's going to stay the same. That first round probably isn't changing very much. Maybe Cup falls back. Cup would worry me. Does Cup worry you at the 103 with Stafford constantly getting hurt now?
Yeah. I don't think he's up there. I think Jamar and Jefferson are definitely up there. Cup, I think he's in a little bit more of a Devontae Adams realm. I would almost put Tyreek and Diggs up there with them as well, just because I'm not confident in the quarterbacks for Adams and Cup. Whereas I feel a little better about that, the Hill and Diggs. I think that's a little closer than it appears. I think Jefferson and Jamar are by far ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, maybe we see a shift there. Maybe we see Eckler shift back up more to 102 when his team situation's figured out a little bit more.
JT probably moves up as well. Just as long as the situation remains as it is, it doesn't get worse.
Hurts I found interesting too. 302. I thought he'd be up there with Mahomes and Josh Allen.
I think he will when we get closer, but right now that's where we're at.
Yeah, interesting nonetheless, isn't it? But yeah, that's going to wrap up the mock here. Tune in 2 weeks for our draft prediction show, which should be a week before the actual draft.
We're all going to nail every single one.
Would that be something? Oh, man. Oh, man. I do remember I victory lapped once because I had Jonathan Taylor go to the Colts. And I remember someone on Twitter be like, no one had this predicted. And I was like, no.
That was me. Listen to the
tape. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe we could pull off some miracle like that again.
Maybe we can.
Beautiful. Well, give us a follow on Twitter at Trust Your Board. I'll see you in 2 weeks for the draft prediction show. Until then, trust your board.